Hey guys, it's Jessica, and today I am going to walk you through the process of making this super cute easel card. I used stamps from Honeybee Stamps and a stencil from Hero Arts. I am going to enter this card into a blog named Hero Challenge for the month of May, which is Hero Arts and Honeybee Stamps teaming up for that challenge. So I'm going to go ahead and enter that into the challenge for the month, but I just wanted to share with you the process because I had a lot of fun making this card. So the first thing that I did was I used my mini Misty to stamp that adorable stamp for kindness. Now this comes in a set from Honeybee Stamps, which is kind of like a sentiment builder set. You can put kindness, you can just use kind. I think there's kindest on there also, and there's just a ton of little phrases that you can pair with it that make super adorable custom sentiments to match whatever you need. So I really liked this. I wanted the sentiment to say, thank God for kindness like yours. And this one, it actually says, I thank God for, and I just didn't use the I. There's a couple ways I could have done it, but what I ended up doing was I just didn't ink on the I. I could have masked it or something like that, but I didn't do that. I just was careful and didn't get any ink on the I when I went to go stamp it, and it worked perfectly for me. So I kind of just hodgepodged the sentiment together, but that's, really what I love about this stamp set. And a lot of those stamp sets from Honeybee Stamps is that you can do things like this and just make it fit your needs. So I did that using the Mini Misty, like I said, and I'm just using some VersaFine Onyx Black ink to stamp that. Then I went ahead and I took my panel and I wanted it to have a more finished look. So I am adding some stitched details to the outside. My paper was already cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 for the card front size. But I just lined it up so that it would still give me the stitched edges and it really doesn't cut anything off. I think I had a little sliver at the bottom, but since it was already the right size, it just added the detail for me without cutting anything else. So once I used my Cuttlebug to do that, I went ahead and got out my Hero Arts stencil, and I absolutely love this stencil. It's so pretty. You can use it for a ton of different stuff. I am going to be using some Distress Oxides with it, and I wanted to have like a kind of clean and simple look down at the bottom, but then have all of the pretty color up at the top. So what I'm doing is I use some Post-it tape down at the bottom to mask off an area that I didn't want any ink to get. And then I'm using some washi tape just to tape down my stencil. And I'll do all the top 3 corners there just to make sure it doesn't move and I don't get any weird ink anywhere on my paper. And then I got out my Distress Oxide. So the first color I use is the Worn Lipstick. And I have found that I used to use my Distress inks and oxides by pressing my foam blending tool down onto the ink pad to try to get the ink. But I have recently found, just by trial and error, that if I kind of brush it around in a circle like you see me do there, I get way more ink. And because I was having some trouble actually having enough ink on my blending tool, and I thought maybe my ink pads were dried out. They're definitely not. I just wasn't doing it right, apparently. So I kind of swoosh it around in a circle, and I get tons of ink that way, especially with the Distress Oxides because they have that more opaque look to them. If you're interested in learning more about the Distress Oxides, I do have 2 videos that I will link to here so that you can check them out if you haven't already. But they're really fun. I really like them and how they give you a different look than the Distress inks. I was really happy with the way this turned out with the pink and the purple and the blue. I thought they looked really good together. And the crisp white on, the black on the white down at the bottom, I thought looked really cool. So now I'm going to build my easel. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take an 8.5 by, an 11 by 5 1/2 sheet, score it like you normally would to make a 5 1/2 by 4 1/4 card, and then I just folded it in half again on one side. So that's going to be the front or the top, that top piece that I bent, that's the front. And you just attach your card front to it like that. Instead of taping it or adhering it to the entire flap there, you just do that bent part. And I went ahead and added a piece of black cardstock to the back just to give it a little bit more stability. I know that with just one sheet of cardstock, I wasn't really sure if it was going to be sturdy enough. And excuse my horrible, my horrible use of double-sided tape there. But it still worked perfectly, so no worries. Anyway, so I went to go ahead and give it some extra stability by adding that black piece of cardstock. And now I am just putting that double-sided tape on so I can adhere it to my other piece of cardstock. Once I do that, I can go ahead and attach it directly to that flap of the card base, which you will see here in just a second. And it came together so easily that I could make a million more of these and probably be happy still making them. I was just really happy with the way it turned out. So I'm going a little crazy with double-sided tape today. I don't usually use double-sided tape, but my tape gun that I normally use was out of commission. Somehow my tape got twisted and it was all jammed. I'd never had that happen before, but it took a little bit of finagling to get it out and get it back in working order. So for the purpose of this video, I skipped it and went with double-sided tape. And I actually got that double-sided tape at Joann in one of my previous hauls. And I have been super impressed with how it works. So if you're looking for some cheap double-sided tape, that is the way to go. I would say you get quite a bit and it's $1.99. So there you see, I went ahead and put it together. That forms the easel part of my card so it stands up. What I'm going to do now is put a piece of black cardstock on the interior. And I'm actually going to make this a pretty involved card as far as, general card making goes. And by that, I just mean I'm adding something to the inside. I know a lot of people don't really show what they do for the inside, but especially for an easel card, I wanted you guys to be able to see what I do. And this is just personal preference. You can make it look however you want. But, just so you have an idea or an example of something that you can do. So again, I'm here with the double-sided tape. The only thing I really don't like about double-sided tape is that you have to peel that backing off, and I really don't have very good nails. So sometimes I kind of struggle with getting the little strip adhesive or, the backing pulled off. Okay, so there's my black piece. And then I was trying to figure out what exactly I was going to do for the inside. And I decided I was going to cut another sheet of 4 1/4, or I think it's probably 4 by 5 1/4, just white cardstock. And I was going to use that stencil again, the one that I used for the outside. And originally I thought I was going to use my ink blending tool again, but then I decided I wanted a lighter, softer feel. And I chose my Clarity stencil brushes. So I went ahead and used some washi tape to adhere my stencil to my cardstock. And then I'm going to go ahead and use my stencil brushes with my Distress Oxides and apply ink in the same general concept or pattern as I did for the front. The cool thing about using a different medium a different tool for the same medium is you get a different result. So on the front, I used the foam blending tool and I got really bright, vibrant colors. On the inside, I'm using my stencil brush, and you get a more muted, soft sort of look by using those stencil brushes instead of the foam blending tools. Now, it did turn out a bit darker on the inside than I thought it was going to, and that is because I used the Distress Oxides rather than the Distress inks. Had I used the Distress inks, it would have been even more soft and muted than the front, but I still was really happy with the way it turned out. So you can see I'm just sort of like swishing with the stencil brush back and forth. I'm sure you're having a ball listening to all my made up names for the techniques that I'm using. I just never know what to call it. You do something, but you don't really have a name for it. That's where I am with a lot of things for crafting. So there I went ahead and removed the washi tape from the back of my card and stencil, and you can see I've got that pretty ink blended look. And I removed the washi tape from the back of the card also. It did rip a little bit, so that washi tape seems to be a little bit more sticky, but it was on the back of the card, so it didn't really make a difference. And then now I'm going to go ahead and adhere that to the center of my card interior. And it gives it a nice black frame or matte. And I thought that looked really cool. It gives it a nice pop, and it actually kind of ties together the front of the card also with that black ink on the white lower part of the card. Alright, so I'm moving all my, removing all the backing from my tape, going ahead and adhering that piece into the interior of my card. And wait, there's more. I'm not done yet. I have to figure out how to get my card to stay open when it's standing up. Otherwise, it'll just flop back down and fall over. So what I'm going to do is add another sentiment on the inside. And I chose "The World Needs More" from that same stamp set from Honeybee Stamps. And that will tie my sentiment together. So the front says, "Thank God for kindness like yours." And then the inside says, "The world needs more." Here I'm using my Distress Oxide to ink the edges of my little sentiment piece just to give it a pop of color against that black. And I thought that made it look like more finished than if I had just left it plain white. So it's little things like that that can help you kind of have a more finished and professional look versus just having some paper layered on top of it, or on top of each other, I should say. So I went ahead and mounted that onto my little piece of black cardstock. And I just used my paper trimmer to cut those down to a size that I thought looked okay. There was no real measuring that I did except to give it a nice little frame. And then I'm going to use foam dots to pop up my little sentiment square or rectangle. And I put those on the back, and that gives it just enough pop to stop the card from falling over. It kind of acts as a stopper for the card so that when you fold it up, it doesn't just fall right back down and you get that cool easel effect. You can do this with pretty much any shape. It doesn't have to be a rectangle. You could do a cute little die cut popped up on something. There are tons of possibilities. And there you have a look at the card and how it works. So it folds flat for mailing, and then you pop it up and it can be displayed. You could even write a message in black pen or gel pen. I might even go with a Sharpie just so it shows up on the inside where that colorful stuff is. But you know, you could even like include maybe like a separate sheet with your letter in it so that it could be removed and saved separate from the card on display. Just totally up to you. There's lots of options. Okay, so I was using that double-sided tape roll to hold my easel card flatter because it does pop up a little bit when you first make it. And I'm just applying some sequins that I got from a recent order I placed through My Favorite Things. And I'm using matte multi-medium from Ranger, and I'm using the little quick sticks tool to help me get it onto the page. And I have a fine tip nozzle on my multi-matte medium, whatever it's called, the liquid gold, that's what we should call it. But I use that to get tiny little dots instead of big globs, and that really helps me a lot. I actually don't ever use it just plain. I use it always with the fine tip applicator, and it works really well for me, especially applying sequins. So here are a few shots of the card and how it turned out. I really hope you like it, and I hope that you'll give it a try making this easel card as well. If you do, be sure to tag me on social media so I can see what you make. It's at A Card Day's Work. Thank you so much for watching this video. Again, I hope you liked it. If you did, be sure to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this.